Moving on, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad said on Saturday that his country could defeat all terrorists and their backers after rebels seized dozens of towns and overran most of Syria's second city of Aleppo. This is being viewed as the biggest challenge to President Bashar al-Assad in years. United States is monitoring the situation and has blamed Assad's reliance on Russia and Iran for loss of Aleppo control. More in this report.
The situation in Syria appears to be in a very volatile state. Rebel forces in Syria have taken control of most of the country's second largest city, Aleppo. This is according to the UK-based monitoring group Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, SOHR. The SOHR reports that over 300 people, including more than 20 civilians, have been killed since the offensive started on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the Syrian military said that dozens of its troops had been killed during an insurgent attack in northwestern Syria and that rebels had managed to enter large parts of Aleppo city, forcing the army to redeploy. The Syrian military statement was the first public acknowledgement by the army that insurgents led by the Islamist Hayat Tahrir al-Sham had entered the government-held city of Aleppo in a surprise attack that began earlier this week. This was the first such attack by rebels in 8 years. On Friday, Russia had urged the Syrian government to restore constitutional order in the Aleppo region as soon as possible. However, seeing the situation worsen, Russia launched airstrikes in parts of Aleppo overnight on Saturday. So let's try to understand this conflict. The Kurdish-dominated Syrian Defense Forces controls most of northeastern Syria. It regularly clashes with Arab tribes that accuse the group of discrimination. Turkey and its proxies also control areas along the northern border and have ramped up attacks on Kurdish forces. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad now controls about 70% of Syria's territory. Turkish troops have been involved in ground operations against the Islamic State since 2016 and have launched attacks against armed Kurdish groups in Syria. When the civil war began in 2011, there were 4 main factions of fighting groups throughout the country. They are Kurdish forces, ISIS, other oppositions such as Jaish al-Fatah and the Assad regime. The ongoing violence against civilians has been condemned by the Arab League, the European Union, the United States and other countries. Nearly 5.5 million Syrian refugees live in the 5 countries neighboring Syria: Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq and Egypt. Germany is the largest non-neighboring host country with more than 850,000 Syrian refugees. Over the years, the conflict has evolved into a complex war involving jihadists and foreign powers. While the Syrian army has regained control of most of the territory it lost earlier in the war, the area where jihadists and their allies are based has been under the truce since 2020. Bureau Report, DD India.